Sound Radio. Broadcasting live from our studio in Nassau, the Bahamas, and throughout the world. TSR Radio is the perfect place for the family.
Okay. Morning, Bahamas, and certainly welcome once again to the Trumpet Sound Network, all the way from the beautiful nation island called the Bahamas. I am your host, along with my beloved friend who had a great celebration last night, Bishop Arnold Josey. Bishop Josey, welcome to Trumpet Sound Network.
Hey, good morning, Doc. It's so good to be alive with the brothers. And again, thank you for a wonderful experience on last evening. Appreciate you, brother.
Man, you finished counting all that money?
Hey, man, I need another day or two, I think. Yeah, right.
It was certainly a blessing last night. It was a wonderful expression of love and fellowship. Well, we're here once again, my good friend and brother, and we have an exciting guest. I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce our special guest on our second round on the Trumpet Sound Network, coming from the beautiful place called the Bahamas, where God resides. Come on, my good friend. Let's present him.
I'm obliged, my brother. Thank you so much for giving me the honors. This is a person that I've known for quite some time now. They call him Shane Gibson, one of the young bright prospects coming out of the Bahamas. He was a friend, a family member of one of my good friends, and I'm just excited to hear what he's going to say. Mr. Gibson, welcome to the Trumpet Sounds today.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Bishop Josey and Dr. Mcphee. It's certainly a pleasure for me to be here with you today on this momentous occasion.
Well, let me say this. Mr. Shane Gibson, your father was a father to me, as my father was a father to him. And when we think about you, we cannot leave out King Eric Gibson, a tremendous contributor to the development of the Bahamas, one who has made the Bahamas great not only through his musical talent, but made sailing what it is today, even though sometimes people forget his tremendous contribution to the development of sloop sailing in our country, and to bringing so many thousands of tourists to come to the outstanding place called King and Night. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, it's a pleasure. And, I feel fortunate in that I had the opportunity to meet your father as well. And I remember him quite vividly and all the contributions that he made to sloop sailing as well. And I remember him and Daddy having some very competitive bouts out there on the water, And so, I may not be as I'm not as young as I look. I got some good age on me, and I got some good memory. And I remember those days of there in Montague Bay. I'll never forget those.
Yes. Well, I know Josey is eager to get at you. I want to just start the ball rolling. Briefly, tell us, who is the man named Shane Gibson?
Well, let me just say this, right? I was fortunate to be brought up in very humble beginnings with my father, the late King Eric Gibson, and my mother, the late Geraldine Gibson. My years go back a long way in remembering as a child, first of all, on Mummy's side, she made sure that we attended church every single Sunday, every Sunday school we had to attend. And so there's a battle between her making us go to church. And then, of course, at a very young age, Daddy was a musician and an entertainer. And he made sure indoctrinate us in the nightclub business. And that's on the show business side, because he was one of the best musicians and entertainers Bahamas ever seen. And so while Mommy made sure we go to church, and my recollection goes back to St. James Native Baptist Church, where we used to walk. We used to live on this off Kemp Road, Mount Pleasant Avenue. We still own the house today. And we walked from there to St. James Road, went to church, went to Sunday school. And then, of course, Daddy, in the nighttime on weekends, he would take us between the golf course during the day and with him performing at the Britannia Club and other places during the night. And so I had a very colorful life and was very religious from day one. I remember Mommy always said, the first thing you do before your foot hit the ground was you pray, which meant that when you got out of bed, you roll out of your bed on your knees. Before your foot hit the ground, you pray. And those things I never ever forget. And those are the kind of things that have me grounded even today. And so I get a lot of what I am today from both Mommy and Daddy.
Well, Brother Josey, I'm going to let you hit him the first blow, and then we'll come back and really talk, because the Gibson family has made a tremendous contribution to this nation.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. My early connection to the Gibson family was their family member, Caroline Walker, down there at Mission, and her son Hilliard was my best friend, and so we got to know this fella Shane Gibson. Now, I remember this Shane Gibson singing a major tenor. I got the Church of God, but I remember Hilliard and I ended up at the Church of God up there on East Shirley Street, and here he was in there doing some major singing, man. And I don't remember how you got to the Church of God.
Well, let me just say it right. First of all, Daddy was one of those persons who tried to spot and create talent. And so either he was good at identifying talent, or he was good at creating talent, or he was good at making you believe you had talent, right? And so at a very early age, he put a microphone in my hand and had me on stage singing. And of course, I was always in the King and Ice Club because of that. And then one night I just decided, I said, man, I had enough of this clubbing, right? And then I decided I went home to Mommy and I said, Mommy, man, listen, are you ready to turn my life over to the Lord? And she prayed me through it and all that. And then I started going back to church. At that time, we already moved from St. James to the Lively Oak Baptist Church. And at that time, I was looking to get married. And I had a sister. I had a sister who was married at the time to Gailey Swan and attending Church of God of Prophecy.
Yes,
and of course, I decided that if I was to find me a wife, I had to find me a wife in church. Never mind, I was a club all my life, and so I went to church. And that's how I ended up back at Prophecy, because I went there and that's where I found my wife at Prophecy. And I ended up singing in the choir with her. I was trying to impress her. So as a way to try to impress her, she was the director of the choir at the time, and I had to join the choir because I had to impress her.
Okay, that's how that story go. Now, King Eric played a main guitar. What instrument?
Listen, did you play? No, I played the drums in the band for years. As a matter of fact, while I was still in high school, I used to go and perform in the show band because at the time Jim and Frankie were the two main drummers. But they got tired beating drum, and so Daddy put the drumsticks in my hand, taught me how to beat the drum. And so I played in the show band for years. With the big Ace, I had the opportunity to play with Wendell Stewart, with Richie Delamore, with Lionel Lotmore. But because every time Daddy went away, he would leave one of those entertainers at the club to perform, because he traveled all over the place promoting the Bahamas. And so I had the opportunity to play the show band and to play for these guys as they performed at the King and Ice Club as well.
Okay. What you say, Doc?
Well, Mr. Shane, let me say this. I was never a nightclub person, but King Eric had such an impact on my life that whatever he attempted to do, he would involve me. If there's going to be a press conference, I was in charge. He arranged everything, but he said, Philip, and let me tell you something about your father. He would call me 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. I got a press conference 9 o'clock. I said, but King Eric, man, I have to sleep. Be up. And so when I got there, he had everything arranged, and King Eric cost me. Remember when y'all had the nightclub at the Nassau Beach area?
Yeah. We moved to King and Isaiah after the burnout on West Bay. We went down to Nassau Beach. Yeah.
Right. And he said, I'm going to the Nassau Beach, the King and I at Nassau Beach. Beer, you got to be like 10 minutes before it starts, because I need to talk to you before you go on the radio, because you might say the wrong thing. I said, but King, but you said, you know, God. And I ended up in the nightclub, and on several occasions, I was there when you performed, when you sang, and what a gift you have, and all of that. But I want to say to you, thank you for being the person that made a difference in many aspects of the development of this country. And so I want to ask, where do we go from here?
Well, let me just say this, right? I'm a believer in that scripture says that a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men, right? And so I am one of those persons who took the gift that I was given, along with the grounding that I got from my parents. And I decided a long time ago to listen, Shane, if you're going to make a contribution in anything, do your best, first of all, right? Secondly, anybody that's involved with anything that you're doing, make sure leave them in a better position than you met them when they first joined you, right? And so I had a very colorful life. I as a matter of fact, my journey to politics was kind of interesting because I never wanted to get involved in politics. I never wanted to get involved in the union. I went to Batelco to work in 1984 after having studied electronics, because Daddy wanted me to study electronics to take over his recording studio. And of course, after I came back and the studio burned down, I ended up working at Radio Shack for a year. Then I went at Batelco. And while I was sitting at Batelco, we were having some issues with persons working shift and not being fair and all that. So they actually identified me as a person who should speak to management, because the rest of them were afraid. And they said, man, you talk to management. And after I spoke to management, I got them to do what the workers wanted. Then they asked me to run for shop steward, which I ran. And then, of course, the first meeting I went to, Keith Archer identified me and said, boy, listen, something about you. You know, and he appointed me as chief shop steward. And then the first executive board meeting I went to as the chief shop steward, I was then elected as a trustee of our pension plan. And then I became the administrator of the pension plan, and I became the treasurer of the union and the president of the union. And as I was serving as president, I got a call from Neville with someone that said, look, hey, man, Mr. Christie wants you to be one of our candidates. I said, me? Man, I ain't interested in politics. I said, listen, I'll go on the platform, I'll speak for you, but I'm not interested in any politics. Of course, he insisted that they keep badgering me. They went and spoke to Daddy, and Daddy came back and talked to me and said, Shane, man, this is for you, this is for you. So finally, I acquiesced, and I offered myself as a candidate, but politics was something I never, ever saw myself getting involved in. You know, and I decided I would serve 15 years and then wanted to back down. And Christy said, no, you go on when I go. And it literally happened that way. I went when he went, you know. He said, no, you got to give it one more time, you know. And so so that's how I got involved in politics. So and then I started getting calls recently over and over again, encouraging me to or trying to convince me to get back, because I had fully retired. And after the calls started getting more frequent and louder, and they started explaining to me why they needed me to come back and represent them again, then I decided to acquiesce again and get involved. So it looks like I'm headed back into politics. Not for me, because I see a need. I see islands bursting with opportunities, but at the present time, not having quite the leadership they need in order to get us to that next level and transforming those islands. So I want to see if I can do my part and trying to see how I could play a small role in helping to transform those Southeast islands that make up my cal. And so looks like I'm back in the politics, not for me, but to try and see what I could do to uplift the people of those islands, because it's just bursting with potential. I just think it requires some dedicated and focused leadership at this time.
Okay, just before Bishop Josey talks to you, I have this question. Do you think it started too early, or this is the time to make the move?
Well, it's never too early to show people what you're made of. See, what I don't want to do, right? What I didn't want to do is to come at the 11th hour and talk my way into you supporting me. I want to work my way into you supporting me. So I figured, let me start early. Let me show you what I'm capable of doing. Let me show you that if I tell you I'm going to do something, you will see that I would do it. Too often, what you find out is that members of parliament or candidates make themselves available to constituents a year or so before election. The only thing they do is they talk to people and tell them what they intend to do. And then when they elected, the people say, but this is not the same person. He promised me so much and he's doing so little, right? So my idea is get in there early and to show them, listen here, I don't want to come and tell you what I'm going to do. I want to show you what I can do. And if I'm able to do these things, even before I'm elected as a member of parliament, just imagine how much more I can do once I'm elected. And so to answer your question, it's not too early. I didn't want to make it public this early. I just wanted to work on the ground. Unfortunately, I sent a letter, was sent to 4 persons. One of them leaked it. I believe I know which one leaked it. I believe I know why they leaked it, but that's politics. And so those are things that happen sometimes.
Okay. Well, what will we do? Let's take a break right here, Doc.
Okay.
For station identification and let everybody know where we're coming from. This is the Trumpet Sounds Network coming from the beautiful Isles of the Bahamas. We'll take a short break and be right back with D. Shane Gibson.
Trumpet Sound Radio. Broadcasting live from our studio in Nassau, the Bahamas, and throughout the world.